an award-winning journalist, a news and public relations executive, a pioneer TV weatherman, a dedicated volunteer for emergency services. These represent the highlights of the professional career of Jim Bennett. Born in Los Animas, Colorado, Jim started his journalism career as a reporter for the town's newspaper, but also worked at radio station KOKO in nearby La Junta.
A big 100-watt station, and in fact, I was kind of an announcer and janitor and everything there. I used to do newscasts from the local paper, the Pueblo paper, when it was delivered in the morning, and they'd get close to the station, and I'd go out and dig it and say, well, there's got this now, and I'd just kind of get a few items off of that.
In 1941, just before America's entry into World War II, Jim spent a summer working in the news department of KFEL, and then at KOA before joining the Navy. Following his military service, Jim worked for a newspaper in San Fernando, California, before going Hollywood, briefly as a news writer for NBC. But it was his return to Denver that launched the long and highly successful broadcast news career. Jim was hired as news writer and newscaster at KLZ Radio, and was there when KLZ Television Channel 7 went on the air. Jim was almost the first TV weatherman in Denver.
And people used to wonder how I would be able to rattle off all these temperatures that were around the country and so on. And I said, well, very simple. It's just written on the board in yellow crayon. And of course, it photographed as the gray background, and you couldn't see the numbers.
As a reporter and photographer, Jim covered the top newsmakers of the day. In 1957, Jim was named news director of KLZ Radio and TV. For 14 years, he headed an operation that garnered dozens of prestigious awards, including the first Emmy awarded to an individual station for the documentary The Road to Nowhere.
We also enjoyed doing good, solid news work. We were doing news. We weren't doing formulas. I would much rather have a good, solid story on the air 5 minutes or 10 minutes or hours even later than just to get on to say that it's happened and this is what we know. And that was a story that I broke, and I called the still photographer and says, let's go. And as soon as I got up there, well, I started doing reports, and he started shooting still pictures, and I had a motion picture camera. And so I left the crash scene, and as I recall, it was 36 miles from the crash scene to the back door of the station, and I drove it in about 28 minutes. Most of the news people got up there about an hour and a half after I did, and a lot of them were still on the way up when I was on the way back.
In 1971, Jim signed on as Director of University Communications at Colorado State University, a post he held until his retirement in 1985. He was an active volunteer leader in the Poudre Canyon Fire Protection District and Poudre Valley Hospital in the Fort Collins area, recognized in 2001 for more than 2,000 hours of volunteer service to the hospital. Of his many achievements, Jim once wrote, "They have been possible only by applying myself to the best of my ability, being loyal to the people with whom I work, and by being fair and honest as a journalist." The broadcast pioneers of Colorado are proud to add the name of Jim Bennett to the list of honored broadcast professionals in the BPC Hall of Fame.